Guys, welcome to a new meta. We have 7 new hypercharges, 3 brawlers that got reworked, and a bunch of balance changes, buffs, and nerfs. And so we have a new current meta tier list to share with you guys. Today, let's start. Let's start with the 1-star brawlers. Guys, this is the first time in years Frank is no longer in the 1-star. We have Hank. Now, Hank in the recent balance changes did get a buff. He got about a 3% health increase, but it's just not enough. It's too insignificant. The problem with Hank is that he just takes too long to charge his bubble, and while he's charging his bubble, he can't heal. To wait so long not to just heal but also charge his attack. So I think the ideal buff to Hank would be to just make it a little faster for him to charge his bubble. Guys, Squeak, ever since his nerf to his Residue gadget, it just lasts 6 seconds. He hasn't been able to recover in the meta, and the major issue with him is his damage output. He's good for area denial, but his major weakness to tanks and assassins just push him so low in the meta. Next we have Doug. Now Doug has always struggled pretty much in every meta. There was one time he was good when there was a bug. He was just immensely healing his teammates. But the major issue with Doug is his range. And then we have Penny. Ever since her nerfs, ever since she got nerfed for her gadgets and her damage output, she just hasn't been able to recover. She just doesn't deal enough damage in this meta to be a formidable threat. And then we have Daryl. Now Daryl, it's been forever since Daryl has gotten any balance changes. He just hasn't been able to move in this meta, mainly because all these other tanks have been getting not only buffs, but also hypercharges. So we're still kind of waiting for Daryl to shine. And then we have Bull. Now Bull was one of the first brawlers to get hypercharges, and tanks ever since the major rework and nerf to hypercharges, tanks just haven't been as threatening anymore, mainly because they don't really get a shield bonus. And so Bull has fallen back down into the meta, back down to 1-star, mainly because he just isn't a very good tanky brawler compared to other tanks that offer great range and damage. Next we have Ash. Now Ash, he also hasn't been able to move up in this meta. Kind of waiting for him to get a hypercharge as well. Main problem with Ash is his damage output. He's been pretty much outclassed now by these other long range brawlers that offer more utility. Next, at 2 stars, we have Willow. Guys, Willow is a very powerful brawler in a lot of Brawl Ball maps such as Sneaky Field, Super Stadium, where she can safely hide behind a wall and deal a lot of damage, and then mind control and then own goal on the enemy. It's so strong. Her problem is, though, she's not very good in other modes such as gem grab, bounty, knockout. Of course, she's just not that great. There's so many other throwers that offer better range and DPS, which Willow really lacks in. And then we have El Primo. El Primo is a pretty strong brawler in the early stages of the game, in the lower ranges, but as you progress, move up, the main issue with Primo has always been his range. He doesn't have much range, and so he becomes a pretty big liability in competitive play. Next we have Lou. Now Lou is a really fun brawler on Hot Zone, especially the single zone maps such as Dueling Beetles and Ring of Fire, but other than that, he just doesn't have a very good home in other game modes like Knockout, Bounty, even Brawl Ball. He struggles in a lot of maps. He's a very hit or miss brawler. And then we have Tara. Problem with Tara is she's also been outclassed by other brawlers like Charlie, who can just summon spiders to block enemies and others. However, it's important to note that Tara has one of the strongest supers in the game. So once she gets a hypercharge, she's gonna be quite devastating in my opinion. Just imagine a hypercharged pull. What's that gonna be like? And then we have Bo. Problem with Bo is his attack can be pretty easy to dodge in competitive play. His main attraction or appeal are his mines, of course, but in competitive, pros are very good at dismantling those mines, so he's not as great, but he's a great brawler for area denial in modes such as Hot Zone. And then we have Bonnie. Bonnie's very underrated in my opinion. Main issue with her is in her normal form, she can be pretty slow, and so she's heavily relying on her gadget to get speed up and get that reload speed as well. And then we have Gus at 2 stars. He just hasn't been able to recover in this meta ever since they removed his knockback from his cookie popper gadget. And on top of that, all these other sharpshooters, long range brawlers have been getting buffed up so much. Like Piper just got a hypercharge, Angela just got a hypercharge, of course Belle recently got a hypercharge, Mandy only takes 4 hits to charge her super now instead of 5. So all of these other sharpshooters, long range brawlers is getting buffs, and meanwhile Gus has just been left out in the shadow, unfortunately. And then we have Mr. P. Mr. P has been just crawling at the lower tiers here, mainly because he's such a big liability against tanks and assassins, very weak to those brawlers. On top of that, throwers also counter him, so just not a very appealing option, but he can be very good into single target brawlers, which he can block their attacks with his porters. Like he can be very good against Angelo and Piper, for instance. And then we have Grum. Now Grum is very strong in the lower ranges, particularly in lower leagues, in power league, ranked mode. Why am I saying power league? Ranked mode, and lower ranges in trophy, mainly because he can deal a lot of damage. But at higher stages, pros are very good at dodging him. That's his major issue. He can be very easy to dodge. And then we have Janet. Now Janet did get a very small minor buff to her damage, but it just hasn't been enough to propel her even further into the meta. It's always been her biggest weakness right now, because in this meta it's full of high health, speedy threats right now, so you need good damage to be successful. And then we have B. Now the problem with the B is she is still 2 stars, as these other sharpshooters, as we mentioned earlier, are just getting buffs and getting stronger. Like Mandy takes 4 hits to charge her super, Piper got a hypercharge, Angela got a hypercharge. So all these other sharpshooters are just getting stronger and stronger, and so B is just, you know, she's still at the bottom. But I feel like once she gets a hypercharge to her super, which is really good against tanks, she could be a very strong brawler. And then we have Edgar. Edgar is still here at the bottom stages, mainly because he's pretty good in like solo modes, like solo showdown, and some heist maps he can be really good against throwers. But other than that, he just hasn't had much of a home in other game modes, especially in open area maps. He can be very hit or miss brawler. All right, now we're gonna move on to the 3-star brawlers. These are more of the balanced brawlers in the game, not very oppressive, not very weak either. They're just good overall brawlers. At first we have Eve. Now Eve has always been very good in water maps such as Canal Grande, maps where she can utilize the side of a map with the water, such as out in the open. So she has maps where she can be great in and not oppressive anywhere overall. So she's here in the mid tier, 3 stars. And then we have Sam. Sam is a great assassin tank hybrid. He has very high health and he has very speedy capabilities. His gadget with the pull can be very strong. However, in the mid tier, mainly because he does lack a hypercharge and he does get countered by other tank counters in the meta. We're going to be naming a lot of powerful tank counters who got buffed up. And then we have Jackie. Jackie's in the mid tier here as well. Ever since the nerf to hypercharges for tanks, they just don't have the same shield capability anymore. She's been in the mid tier, but she can be very strong where she excels in maps such as Canal Grande, Sneaky Fields. These maps she's very strong in. And then we have Chuck. Problem with Chuck is he's not very good in most maps, but he can be very strong in heist, particularly because he can just drive to the safe and deal constant damage, cycle back and forth. He's so strong on heist, and so he's in the mid tier, mainly because he's a very niche brawler. And then we have Mortis. Now Mortis is very strong assassin against low health brawlers, especially those that lack knockback and a super to, like, you know, stun him. So he's very good against low health brawlers, especially throwers, of course, one of the best counters to throwers. And then we have Sprout. Sprout obviously really weak to assassins like Mortis, as we mentioned, as well as other assassins, and very weak to tanks. And so Sprout can be very weak in a lot of maps, particularly on the ladder. But in ranked mode, he's one of the strongest last picks in the game. If the other team is not prepared, if they don't have a strong assassin or a tank, they're in trouble against the Sprout. And then we have Nani. Now Nani did get a recent nerf to her damage, just doesn't have the same damage output anymore. And so she's very strong in open area maps such as Shooting Star, of course, and a lot of other knockout and bounty maps, particularly because of her attack and the way you're gonna utilize her around walls. She just requires passive play. She's not very good in speedy game modes where you play fast-paced, such as Brawl Ball and Hot Zone. You just don't want to use Nanny in those game modes. And then we have Lola. Lola is a mid-tier here. She's very strong for DPS once she gets her ego, and then you can combine it for a lot of damage. She's great in certain heist maps, but she's in the mid-tier. She just doesn't have the range or overall damage to be very good in the top tier. She just takes a while to get her super, of course, and so she's not going to be very good on fast-paced modes such as Brawl Ball, where there's going to be a lot of tanks going around, or in the bounty and knockout where you have all these sharpshooters and throwers that Lola is going to be weak to. And then we have Shelly. Shelly's really strong against tanks and assassins, of course. She's one of the best against those brawlers. And I feel like Band-Aid star power on her is really underrated. She can be very strong where she shines, but her problem is her damage from long distance. She's just not as great against longer range and mid-range brawlers that can easily, comfortably counter her. And then we have Spike. Now, Spike did get a nerf to his damage a couple months ago, and so he hasn't been the same that he was before that nerf. Particularly, he's a great glass cannon brawler, meaning he does a lot of damage but has very low health, and so he's really weak to throwers and long range brawlers. A lot of the long range brawlers recently have been getting buffed, guys, and so Spike has just been falling a lot. And then we have Pam as well as Pearl. Both of these brawlers, very good mid-range brawlers with great damage, great utility. Pam with nice heal, and she can be really strong in certain hot zone maps because of that heal station. You can drop it and take control. But main issue with these two brawlers is that they're very weak to certain brawlers such as Colette and other long-range brawlers that deal heavy damage. They can be countered quite easily. And then we have Dynamite. Now, Dynamite here is at 3 stars. A lot of people would argue he's 4 stars. The main issue with Dynamite is this is a very assassin speedy meta with lots of tanks, and now you got more wall breakers, all these brawlers getting hypercharged, such as Piper destroying walls with her hypercharge, of course. And so Dynamite just hasn't been able to move up in the competitive meta, but he's very strong in the lower tiers where you're not going to face as many assassins. But assassins are the most popular archetype in the game, guys. Brawlers such as Mortis, Miko, Edgar, Fang, these are very popular brawlers. Next, we have Colt. Very high DPS brawler. He can be very strong where he shines in, such as Heist with his DPS. But in competitive meta, he's just not as great. He's got an attack that's very easy to juke. And so he's really good in the lower tier, especially if you got the skill. He's one of the highest skill cap brawlers too, meaning if you are really good at aiming and really taking advantage of the damage output that he can deal along with his super chain, he can be really strong. And then we have Ruffs. Now, Ruffs is a great brawler, great support. He's going to give you and your teammates 20% damage boost every time you get that super. Main problem with him in this meta is it's a fast-paced meta, and so brawlers that require time to build up their strength are not going to be as great here in this meta. You need speedy brawlers that can make an impact immediately. And so next we have Griff. Griff is a great brawler for area control. In the meta about a year ago, he used to be really strong up there as 5 stars when he was able to hold control of zones. But again, speedy meta, lots of hypercharged brawlers, high-powered long-range brawlers, hypercharges now. And so Griff hasn't been able to recover from the top tier anymore. And then we have Carl. Carl is strong, guys. They gave Carl a big damage buff, but unfortunately, the issue with Carl has always been his super being so easy to counter. It's really easy to counter by knocking back, stun, or immobilization supers, such as like Charlie cocooning him inside her super. There's so many ways to counter Carl, and so he just always at the mid tier here. He's a great last pick in draft because you don't want to draft them against these brawlers that can stun them. Like for example, if you draft them early, the enemy's just gonna draft a brawler to just easily stun you and counter you, such as Buzz. And then we have Otis. He's in the mid tier as well, has good range, good damage, but just not enough to make him oppressively strong. He's great against assassins because of his super. You can nullify their attacks, immobilize them for a bit, allowing him to counter. However, he just doesn't have the damage output that he used to anymore to deal immense damage against these longer range, high-powered brawlers that have been getting buffed recently. And then we have assassins, guys. Miko, Fang, and Leon. They've been moving up and down in the meta a lot. They're very strong assassins. They're some of the most popular assassins in the game. They don't require too much skill either. With a Miko, you can just jump around, get close, hit that gadget button to slow them down, and you can be quite a menace. However, in competitive play, these brawlers, guys, Miko, Fang, Leon, they're very easy to counter. Fang and Leon, single target brawlers. You can pretty much counter them with tanks because they just don't have the damage output to deal with them. Healer compositions are really good against them, and of course spawners. Spawners are a big issue for a brawler like Fang, who can just get his attacks blocked by a brawler like Charlie and their spiders. And then we have Maisie. Maisie recently got a buff to her supercharge. When she uses her super, she charges a little more, but it's just such a small buff, guys. It just hasn't been enough to push her back. She did get a big nerf recently to her supercharge, and then her hypercharge also got nerfed. So she just hasn't been able to recover the meta, particularly because her attack is also very easy to dodge. She has a very hard attack to hit. Now let's talk about the 4-star brawlers, guys. These are the more common brawlers you're going to see in high level play, high trophy ranges, high ranked mode, by pro players in esports. We have Stu and Gray, two high skill technical brawlers that are really good at countering low health brawlers, especially throwers with Stu's breakthrough gadget. And then you got Gray with his cane gadget that can not only pull but also break walls, and then of course his teleport support. These are brawlers that are really strong in competitive play. And then we have 8-Bit with his boosted booster star power, 50% increased damage for him and his teammates. He's such a powerful brawler. He's got a teleport gadget that's so good for escapes, and then his extra credits gadget for heavy damage on heist, high damage output brawler. Very good in a lot of places. And then we have Rosa, one of the best tanks, with her hypercharge. Chains her hypercharge very quickly. That's the best part about Rosa, is her ability to get her super and hypercharge very quickly. She's great at countering so many other tanks in the meta. And then we have Brock. Now Brock did get a recent buff to his hypercharge, does a little more damage, but just hasn't been able to move up to 5 stars, mainly because he's still countered by a lot of brawlers, particularly these other sharpshooters are still stronger. But he's super strong, as Brock offers great versatility, great wall break. He's so good for so many maps when you want that quick wall break, such as maps like Safe Zone, where you want to destroy the mid wall, or Out in the Open, where you want to create an entry point so you have more ways to dominate in game. And then we have Belle. Now Belle has moved down a bit to 4 stars recently. After she got her hypercharge, she was really strong, but now she's in the 4-star, mainly because these other sharpshooters, guys, got buffed up even more, such as Piper with their hypercharge, Angelo with his hypercharge. Pretty crazy. And then we've got Jessie. Jessie's been moving up and down in the 4 and 5 stars. Here we have her at 4 stars, mainly because she's pretty easy to counter by a lot of brawlers such as throwers and these other powerful sharpshooters. As you can see, I've been saying sharpshooters a lot in this video, and that's because in this current meta, it's been really strong. These sharpshooters are so strong now, such as Piper, Angelo, Mandy getting her super on only 4 hits now. And so a lot of these brawlers are just moving up and down, just molding into this long range meta. And then we have Buzz. Buzz is a 4-star. Could even argue he's 3 stars, but you know, ever since his hypercharge, he's always been a good assassin tanky hybrid. He's just so useful in so many situations, and his ability to counter Frank as well, stun him. Buzz is pretty strong still. Then we have Kit. Now a lot of people can argue Kit is 5 stars, and I would not disagree with that at all. Kit is so strong, especially in competitive play, especially for 3v3 with his cheeseburger gadget, giving heal support on top of being a great assassin type brawler and a support. He's both assassin and support brawler, guys. Kit is so strong. And we have Crow with hypercharge. He recently got a buff to his hypercharge, gets it quicker and does more damage. And so the reason Crow's so high here is because of Max as well. Max got a hypercharge, and so Crow's one of the best at countering the speedy threats and also great against mid-range brawlers. He's just a very good brawler. And then we have Larry and Laurie. Now Larry and Laurie have been getting nerfs, of course. They used to be one of the most broken brawlers in the history of the game, but now they've, you know, supplanted themselves into the 4 stars still. And that's mainly because thrower, and then of course a spawner on top of that, and then great mobility. They're fast brawlers. And then we have RT. RT's inline gadget was reworked. He can now instantly get his super anytime he wants to. Hard counter a lot of assassins and tanks now. He's so strong, a long range brawler, and then using your gadget to reconvert back into normal form. RT is so strong. I guess his main weakness is how hard it can be to consistently hit from long distance, but RT, make no mistake, is so strong. And then we have BB. BB, ever since her hypercharge, has always been a very strong brawler. She can deal so much damage, especially once she gets her hypercharge and that bubble blasting around. Oh my goodness, she can be so deadly. And then we have Tick. Tick, ever since he got his hypercharge, has also been really strong in knockout, bounty, a lot of these maps where you can just passively shoot your mines from a long distance, and then once you get your hypercharge, it can be very deadly to stop. And then we've got Ems. Now Ems is one of the newest brawlers to get a hypercharge. She has moved back to the 4 stars here, hasn't been able to move to the 5 stars mainly because of her range. Doesn't have the range to be super impressive, so she's really strong on especially bushy maps, because with speed gear Ems, she's so good at countering tanks, and then she's also one of the best at countering healer compositions such as Poco and Tank. She can be very strong at countering them. And speaking of Poco, we got Poco at 4 stars, such a great heal supporter. His gadgets got buffed recently as well, so he's been here at the top here. Great heal. Heal is so good right now in this meta because you got all these tanky, speedy brawlers such as Draco, obviously, who recently came to the game. So Poco is up there, guys. And then we have Charlie for the first time moving down to 4 stars finally after being 5 stars forever. And this is mainly because of her recent nerfs. Doesn't deal as much damage anymore, and then her Spider's gadget also got nerfed. But it's possible for her to climb back to 5 stars. We just haven't seen as much of a glow up for Charlie recently. Next we have Chester. Oh my goodness, Chester moving up from 1 star to 4 stars now. He has gotten a big glow up in this meta thanks to his rework. His Bellomania is now basically ingrained with him, and also his first star power does so much, 2560 with a 1 bell attack. That is insane. He can deal so much damage in a hurry, and he has fast mobility. He's a very strong brawler in this meta. And then we got Buster. Buster has moved down to 4 stars. He's great, man. Buster is great support. Get your supers freely just by camping your teammates. Great in 3v3, especially in competitive play. He's got a pull gadget, of course, always a big threat. So he's always up there. And then we've got Nita. Now Nita has been moving up and down between 4 and 5 ever since her hypercharge. She's so strong. Nita's one of the best brawlers in the bushy maps, guys, like Sneaky Fields, Gem Fort, any bushy map like Double Swoosh, even, where she can utilize her speed and get her super quickly. She's so good against tanks, but the main reason we have her at 4 stars is because she's just not as good in the open area maps, right? You don't really want to use Anita particularly on a map like Shooting Star, obviously. Even in Backyard Bowl, she can be hard to use. And in a lot of heist maps, like you don't want to use Anita in Safe Zone, for example. So because of that, she's 4 stars. She's strong where she really shines, but not as strong in the maps where she doesn't shine. And then we have Surge. Now Surge, I might have overrated, I'll be honest. I might have overrated him and pushed him to 5 stars last time, but we're gonna put him at 4 stars here. He might even drop to 3 stars in the future. We'll have to see, because he hasn't received the hypercharge yet. I feel like once Surge gets a hypercharge, he could easily become a 5-star brawler. Man, Surge with hypercharge, he's gonna be crazy because he gets his super very quickly, right? And then on top of that, what is his hypercharge gonna do when he pounces down? What is it gonna? Is it gonna be like similar to Piper, where she knocks back and destroys walls? I don't know, but it could be very deadly. And then we have Barley, another of our newest hypercharge additions. What makes Barley such a great brawler is his other capabilities, such as his herbal tonic gadget, heal, and now with his hypercharge super, it does even better for area control. So I feel like Barley can be very underrated right now. A lot of people don't see his hypercharge is very good, but I feel like it can be really good, especially on a lot of area control modes, such as Hot Zone. Use him on a map like Dueling Beetles. He can be a nightmare to deal with. And then we have Mandy. Now remember what we said, 4 hits to charge her super. She is even stronger now, one of the best in knockout and bounty for sure. Just so strong getting her super so quickly, but in fast-paced action she's just not as impressive anymore. Like Brawl Ball, Gem Grab, you don't want to really use Mandy in those game modes because you want to get into the action, right? You don't want to just sit back and wait and shoot from a distance, right? And so Mandy is strong but not broken strong. And then we have Gale. Now Gale recently got a buff to his hypercharge, so strong, that ability to stun, push you back onto the wall, chain super. He's a really strong counter to assassins and tanks, so super good brawler for what he's good at doing, like countering assassins and tanks, but not so much against sharpshooters or throwers to make him impressive enough to push him into the 5 stars. Now let's move on to the 5 stars. Let's start with the newest addition to the game, Barry. Guys, Barry is so strong. I feel like a lot of people don't realize how strong he is when they first play him because of all the things you can do. Barry can do so much. When he shoots his ice cream onto the map, that lasts for 6 seconds. That's a 6 seconds on the map, and then you can obviously shoot even more and just like encompass the whole map full of puddles, making it really dangerous for area denial. And on top of that, he heals you and your teammate. You can heal yourself by throwing ice cream at yourself, and if you couple it with his first star power, you get increased reload, 50% more reload, so you can drop even more ice creams. It's just so strong. And not just that, you can drop your ice cream, your attack, onto your teammates and you can get free supers. So if you're playing in competitive, you can coordinate with your teammates, be like, hey guys, can you just sit next to me? I'm gonna heal you, I'm gonna get my super, and I'm gonna use my super to heal you guys even more. It's so strong, and he has other assassin-like capabilities. His super, it does like 3,600 damage onto the enemy when you super into them, like a Carl super into them. And not just that, you got a gadget that knocks them back. He's so strong with so many things, guys. And more people are gonna realize just how OP he is the more you get to play him. And then we got Lily. Lily is absolutely broken. So broken. Lily is so broken, guys. 2 ammo slots. The crazy thing is her unload speed. Because of the unload speed with those 2 ammo slots, the moment she uses her super on the target, 2 quick shots, that's a total of 7,000 damage with her star power, guys. Lily is insane. And then we got Frank. Now Frank obviously he did not just get a hypercharge, but he also got a rework. The lower his health is, the more he hits you faster, right? So because of that, he's just so strong right now. Very few things counter him. I feel like they over buffed him. They not only gave him a hypercharge, but they also gave him a rework buff, which is pretty crazy. I feel like would have been better if they just gave him a hypercharge and waited before buffing him or reworking him, I think it would have been better. Because right now he's just a little too over the top. And then we got Melody and Angelo still at the 5 stars here. Melody did recently get a nerf to her health, 500 HP nerf, but it's still not enough to push her out of the meta. She's not as broken anymore, but she's still really strong because she still has a gadget that gives her a big shield for as many orbits she has. The more shield she gets, that's enough to make her a powerful assassin brawler with insane mobility. And then of course Angelo recently got a hypercharge. He got a nerf to his damage and his super rate, but it's just not enough to push him out because now they also gave him a hypercharge, which is really strong. It not just powers him up more damage, but he can move with his super, which is crazy. And then you got Piper, one of the best hypercharges given to her as well. She pounces on enemies, pushing them back, making her into a sniper assassin, breaks walls with her hypercharge as well, which also benefits her because, you know, Piper loves open area, right? So everything is just working in line for Piper in this meta. She's so strong. And we've got Sandy. Now Sandy recently got a nerf to his supercharge rate, but it's just not enough to push him out of the meta. His hypercharge has been untouched. It's so powerful. His hypercharge is so powerful, guys. It immobilizes enemies, speeds you and your teammates up inside the sandstorm. So he still has the best hypercharge in the game, and so Sandy is still here at the top, 5 stars. And then Cordelius, one of the best counters to hypercharge brawlers, of course. In his domain, his Shadow Realm, he's the strongest brawler, and he gets his super pretty quickly too. He has so much utility, jump gadget, mute gadget, and so Cordelius is always going to be good. And then you got Byron. Byron recently got a buff, of course. He gets his super so quickly, 3 quick hits. Great heal supporter. He's so good because he got so much utility, guys. Range, heal, ability to throw an attack over walls. His super, of course, gets it very quickly. He's just so good. And then you got Gene. Gene, ever since his hypercharge, he's been moved up a little. He's always been good because of his magic plus star power, always supporting teammates. In competitive play, Gene is always good. The ability to make a pull and just get a quick kill, it's always going to be really strong, especially on the game modes such as Gem Grab. And you got Rico recently getting a hypercharge as well. Rico is insane. I would probably have put Rico at 4 stars, especially because his gadget, his second gadget, which does so much damage, got nerfed a little bit, but because he got a hypercharge, it makes up for it, and now he's even deadlier. Those balls, they pop off everywhere on the map, guys. He's super strong, and definitely respectably deserves 5 stars. And we got Amber. Amber still doesn't have a hypercharge, but she's still 5 stars, which is crazy. And the main reason for that is because she's so good in so many departments. Area denial, gets her super very quickly. She's got a dancing flames gadget around the wall, great against assassins and tanks, and her super does so much damage, and she's so easy to play because you can spam her attack around with heavy damage output. And then we've got Max, who recently got a hypercharge, of course, and ever since then she's moved back into the meta. So strong that hypercharge speeds her up like crazy, gives you great damage, and then of course the speed support is just so good in this meta, full of these powerful tanks who can deal so much with that speed support. And then we've got Colette. Colette is back to the top here in 5 stars, guys, and it's so easy to know why. Because of what? Frank, Meg, all these brawlers are back up here. Draco, of course, and Colette's one of the best, if not the best counter to pretty much all of high health brawlers. And so because of that, respectably, Colette is back at the top. You just need a Colette to counter these high oppressive, powerful, tanky brawlers. And speaking of those high oppressive, tanky brawlers, Meg got a rework. She does so much damage from up close now. She's insane. She also got a health buff to her tank form. She's just crazy. Really strong tank counter now, on top of being an overall really good brawler pretty much everywhere. She's just so strong. And then we got Draco. Can't forget about Draco, the newest brawler, and he's super strong. So much utility. gets it super very quickly, and then chains it very easily to in his dragon form. And on top of that, his last stand gadget is broken. Additional survivability. Anytime you're low about to die, pop that gadget, you're gonna survive for two more seconds. And on top of that, you could even heal, and couple him with a healer like Kit or Baron. He's gonna be insanely powerful, so hard to stop. There you guys have it, the complete tier list for the new meta. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys agree or disagree, let me know in the comments below, and leave a like and also subscribe for more awesome Brawl Stars content. And I'll see you guys soon. Take care.